Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Braja Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vana Chari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Radha Vallabha Radha Vallabha Radhe Jaya Radha Vallabha Radha Vallabha Radhe Jaya Radha Vallabha Radha Vallabha Radhe Haribo Haribo Oh Haribo Nitai Gaura Haribo Nitai Gaura Haribo 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 Nitai Gaura Haribo Jaya Vishnupad Paramahansa Privradikacharya Statara Sarasi Samaj Tamange Shri Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Shri Radha Ballabha Bhagwan Ki Jai Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Ki Jai Shri Gauranitai Ki Jai Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bol Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya This morning we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 26, Text 20. Anuninye tasanakae Viro nunaya kovitaha Paspasha parayugalam Ahachot sangalalitam Anuninye tasanakae Viro nunayako vidaha. Pashpasha parayugalam. Ahachot sangalalitam. Anuninye tasanakar. Viro nunayako vidaha. Pushpasha parajugalam. Ahachot sangalalitam. Yununayako vidaha. Yugalam. Achot sang. Vaishnavis. Virununayako vidaha. Aspasha parayugalam. Anuninye began to flatter. Ata thus. Sanakai gradually. Vida the hero. Anunayako vida one who is very expert in flattery. Pashparsha touched. Padayugalam both the feet. Aha he said. Cha also. Utsanga, on his lap. Lalitam, that's being embraced. Translation, because the king was very expert in flattery, he began to pacify his queen very slowly. First he touched her 2 feet, then embraced her nicely, seating her on his lap, and began to speak as follows. Translation, please repeat. Because the king was very expert in flattery, he began to pacify his queen very slowly. First he touched her 2 feet, then embraced her nicely, seating her on his lap, and began to speak as follows. Purport, one has to awaken his Krishna consciousness by first regretting his past deeds. Just as King Puranjana began to flatter his queen, one should, by deliberate consideration, raise himself to the platform of Krishna consciousness. To attain such an end, one must touch the lotus feet of the spiritual master. Krishna consciousness cannot be achieved by self-endeavour. One must therefore approach a self-realised Krishna-conscious person and touch his lotus feet. Prahlad Maharaj therefore said, Naisham matis tavat urukramangrim sprishat yanarata pagamo yadarata mahiya sampada rajo bhishekam niskanchananam na vinita yavat. Bhagavatam 7.532. One cannot come to the precincts of Krishna consciousness unless he touches the dust of the lotus feet of a person who has become a Mahatma, a great devotee. This is the beginning of the surrendering process. Lord Krishna wants everyone to surrender unto him, and this surrendering process begins when one touches the lotus feet of a bona fide spiritual master. By sincerely rendering service to a bona fide spiritual master, one begins his spiritual life in Krishna consciousness. Touching the lotus feet of a spiritual master means giving up one's false prestige and unnecessarily puffed up position in the material world. Those who remain in the darkness of material existence are due to their falsely prestigious positions. So-called scientists and philosophers are actually atheists. They do not know the ultimate cause of everything. Although bewildered, they are not ready to surrender themselves to the lotus feet of a person who knows things in their proper perspective. In other words, one cannot arouse Krishna consciousness simply by his own mental speculation. One must surrender to a bona fide spiritual master. Only this process will help one. Anuninye ta sanakai viro nunaya kovita pashpasha parayugalam aha chotsanga lalitam. Because the king was very expert in flattery, he began to pacify his queen very slowly. First he touched her 2 feet, then embraced her nicely, seating her on his lap, and began to speak as follows. So Narad Muni, continuing, telling the story to King Pachani Bahishat of King Puranjana. King Puranjana goes to the forest to hunt. So, of course, this hunting, this is an analogy and signifies, going out and indulging in all sorts of hunting for sense gratification. Hunting for sense gratification, and abandoning one's good intelligence. Very foolish, abandoning good intelligence. Now, Prabhupada actually, in many places, translates good intelligence to Krishna consciousness, because only by pure Krishna consciousness can one get good intelligence, actually. At the moment, our intelligence is being pulled all over by our mind and senses. The eye sees something, and the mind becomes attracted and everything pulls on the intelligence. Yeah, work out how to see that better. Or it smells something, oh, that's a nice smell, and the senses are pulling, and the mind is thinking, and then pulling on the dragging the intelligence. Yes, smell. Work out how to smell that better. Or taste something. Yes. Work out how to taste it better. Get more of it. So dictating the senses, and it's backwards. The senses and the mind are dictating to the intelligence, pulling it here and there all over the place, and away from the original situation of the intelligence, which is actually Krishna consciousness. Now, actually, it is mentioned here that the Queen represents this intelligence being treated nicely, and Prabhupada goes on to extrapolate further that actually one should have this mood, although, in a normal sense, the king's overly attached. I think in the previous chapter, or was it earlier on, I seem to remember that wherever he was so infatuated and so enamored that wherever when the Queen would stand, he would stand. When she would sit, he would sit. When she would eat dinner, he would eat dinner. She would go to some place, he would go with her, so on and so forth. So totally overly infatuated, overly enamored. So that type of intelligence, that is material intelligence. But that same intelligence, strengthened by Krishna consciousness. Now, when it is strengthened by Krishna consciousness, one needs to take the help of the Guru to strengthen and bring one's intelligence to the proper state of Krishna consciousness. So Prabhupada emphasizes on that. He expert in flattery. Now, expert in flattery, generally, especially in Kali Yuga, when this term is used, flattery, when you go and flatter someone, it's kind of like almost disingenuous. You're flattering someone, you want to get something from someone. I flatter you, oh, you're so nice, and you're so good, you're my best friend, can you loan me $50,000? Generally it's motivated. You're so nice. I remember when we were students, we always used to flatter this one friend of ours who actually none of us ever liked, but he was the only one with a car. So so if we wanted to get anywhere, we had to flatter him, so he'd take us here and there. But, none of us really had any feeling for it. Actually, we didn't want him to be part of our group, but we kept him in because he used to drive us everywhere. So, like that, in the material world, it's like that. It's, very motivated, selfish reasons. It's not genuine. And this is unfortunate because you live in the world of duality, attraction, repulsion, all these things. But actually, when we come to our proper Krishna consciousness, then we rise up above that. Good intelligence. So here, Puranjana began to pacify. He expert in flattery, very expert in flattery. He touched her 2 lotus feet, embraced her nicely, sitting. So this much infatuation with his wife, Prabhupada turns it around. One should have this much devotion for the Guru. This much devotion for the Guru. And when one's too attached, man for woman, woman for man, in this way, one becomes entangled. Pasanga majadam pasamat manakavayo vidu sadasokritu mukshat paramapavritam. There's one verse in the Bhagavatam that states that attachment can be the cause of liberation or the cause of a total entanglement. So attachment on the material platform in this way completely entangles one, and one becomes overly infatuated, and at the end of the life, who knows what the situation is going to be in the next life, and so on and so forth. So, but if we turn it around by good intelligence, by Krishna consciousness, and the starting process is surrendering unto the lotus feet of the Guru. First of all, Prabhupada does say, he quotes from Prahlad Maharaj, Naisham matis tavad urukramangrim. He quotes and he says that first of all, one has to have regret about his past activities. And in a couple of shlokas ago, Prabhupada quotes from Narottam Das Thakur, Hari Hari Vifale Janama Goinainu, Manushya Janma Paya Radha Krishna Bhajiya Janiya Suniya Vishakainu. He says that he repents for having spoiled his human life and knowingly drunk poison. By not being Krishna conscious, one willingly drinks the poison of material life. Purport is that one certainly becomes addicted to sinful activities when he becomes devoid of his good chaste wife, or when he has lost good sense and does not take to Krishna consciousness, as Prabhupada was explaining in the previous purport. If one, it's difficult to make advancement on the path of the Krishna consciousness when one still has, is still enamored by material activity. Still enamored by material activity. It'll be a dragging. It'll be you'll be dragged. You'll want to go forward, but then you'll be dragged back. in the old days we used to do this play, the rocks play. The rocks play, where you'd come out and generally there would be devotees, there would be like a river. And the river was, we used to get a lot, one of the Mataji's saris, like a blue sari, and that was the river. So that was like they were waving that around. That was the river, and on one side was the devotees chanting, and on the other side there was a fellow there, and he was picking up rocks, and these rocks were kind of had names on them, you know, the wife rock, the family rock, the work rock, all these different rocks. And so he was picking them up and holding them and very attached to them. But then he was attracted to the devotees, and the devotees were waving to him, come over here and join us. And he said, yeah, that looks good, I'm going to come over. So he tried to go across, but he couldn't get across the river because he was holding too many rocks. The devotees go, hey, drop your rocks, drop your rocks. It's a little bit of a hit, this play. We used to do it in the street as well. Drop your rocks, drop your rocks. Oh, I don't know, I'm pretty attached to these rocks. Oh, you got to drop them. Oh, all right, I'll give up this one. So he gave up one rock. He thought he could just give up one rock and at least hold a few of them. So then he started to come again, but still, he was, no, you got to drop all your rocks, all your rocks. So then he gave up another one. He'd still try to come again. No, all your rocks. So in the end, he just threw all his rocks, and he was able to swim over and join the Harinam party for Kirtan. This is like a favourite play we used to do out in the street, and when we go on Harinam, we used to just all of a sudden break into it. People would gather around, wonder what was going on. And so the point, and then someone would stand up and give the whole purport of the whole thing. I remember having to do this a few times, give the purport. So, holding on to the rocks of material attachment, unfortunately we do that when in the beginning we've got our habits from before. And I remember here Prabhupada, we were on a walk with Prabhupada, he came here, and someone said, I think it was Charu who said that, Prabhupada, we see sometimes devotees, they come to Krishna, but they go away. Why is that? I thought all the reactions are gone. He said, yes, reactions are, by chanting, so many reactions are gone, but this is due to past bad habits, he said, and attachment to past bad habits. They've come, had not only this life, but many lives, he said. Past bad habits. The reactions, just by a little bit of chanting, reactions, of course, love of God is another thing, but karma, it's not due to karma. He actually says it's not due to karma as such. It's due to bad habits from the past. So one has to know about that, okay, these things are pulling me, are dragging me. And then so the sooner I let go. There's one story, Srila Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur tells of the person who was, they were, the family were on pilgrimage and they were giving in charity. There was a big line of the people asking, begging and this. And so one fellow was embracing a tree. So all the others were holding out their begging bowls, and so they were giving. But this one was holding the tree. So the person, the person, the grihastha who was there wanted to give him, but he kept holding the tree. I said, let go of the tree so I can give you something. No, I'm very attached to this tree. Just give me anyway. How can I give it to you if you don't let go of the tree? So Srila Bhaktivedanta tells this story of the foolish, ignorant man who just holding on and he can't receive the mercy. Right? He's holding on because he's holding on. So we're like that. We hold on. We hold on. And, to the degree we're holding on, to the degree we're dragged. And also Krishna reciprocates accordingly. You want to hold on, and then I give you. But Krishna always wants that to, ultimately you're just going to let go and surrender unto him. Indeed, this is one of the surrendering process. There are 6 articles of surrender. One is accepting things favourable to Krishna consciousness, and then rejecting things, being confident of the Lord will protect you, being dependent on the Lord, and then not thinking anything separately from Krishna, and always being meek and humble. Always being meek and humble. So these are the 6 items in the process of surrender. And elaborated in different ways in the Shastra, in Bhagavad Gita. I was just remembering a verse, Nirmanamo Citta Sangha Dosha, Adhyatma Nitya Vinivita Kama. In the 15th chapter, Krishna himself, and Prabhupada says, yes, this is the surrendering process. He says here, in verse 5, Nirmanamoha jitta sangha dosha adhyatma nitya vinivita kama dvanve vimukta sukha dukkha sanghe gitantimuram paramavayam tat. Those who are free from false prestige, illusion, false association, understand the eternal, who are done with material lust, free from the dualities of happiness and distress, who are unbewildered, know how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attain that eternal kingdom. So Prabhupada starts his purport, he says, the surrendering process is described here very nicely. The first qualification is one should not be deluded by pride. Then he gives long purport. So he says, but more or less the same thing is said here by Prabhupada. One must touch the lotus feet of the spiritual master. This is beginning of the surrender. First of all, one regrets the previous activities, and then one needs the mercy of one has to approach the Guru and beg for the mercy of the Guru. So by touching the lotus feet, one is beginning to surrender unto the lotus feet of the Guru. This is very, very important. One humbles oneself. One of the articles of surrender being meek and humble. Meek and humble. So when you bow down, we bow down so many times. Actually, I always remember when I first came to the temple. It was here in Melbourne. I was a student, but it was before here. It was in another place. I brought a couple of friends, and one friend of mine, he came with his girlfriend. So we stayed for the whole kirtan was going on, and then nice prasadam, and so at the end we were going home. So what did you think? Did you like it? And he said, yeah, it was nice, yeah, it's good food, And then she said, yeah, it was nice, but I don't know, all this bowing down, They're bowing down, they're always bowing down, they bow down, and then they bow down again, and they bow down again, and they bow down again. All this bowing down, this bowing down is just too much. She said like that. Because I didn't know that much about Krishna consciousness to give a good explanation. And so I said, yeah, that's interesting. I'll have to ask the devotees about that. So, yes, but bowing down because we're puffed up. That's some of the substance of it. We're too puffed up. There was that, years ago, there was that song by that boy George, bow down, mister, right? Bow down, mister. We have to bow down. Of course, it may seem a bit overdone, and in the beginning, we're a little bit forcing to do it. But as one advances, one generally feels very humble. And here, Prabhupada described, one must approach a self-realized Krishna consciousness, touch his lotus feet. And then he goes on to say, one must touching the lotus feet, giving up one's false prestige. Now, Krishna himself gives this instruction. And he gives this instruction, if you want, a very famous verse from Bhagavad Tadvidi Panipatina, Pariprashnena Seva, Upadakshititi Jnanam, Jnaninas Tatvadarshan, a very famous verse. One time, one disciple asked Prabhupada, what is the most important verse from Bhagavad Gita? God brother of mine, we just happened to be there. And Prabhupada said, what do you think is the most important verse from Bhagavad Gita? And then he said, I think Prabhupada it's Tadvidi Panipatina. He said this verse, just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master, inquire from him submissively, render service unto him. The self-realized souls can impart knowledge unto you because they have seen the truth. As Prabhupada said, yes, you have understood the secret of Bhagavad Gita. So, all right, we're coming, we're surrendering, we're repenting our past activities, but then we have to do something. It's one thing just to be sorry. Sorry. Then you do the same thing. Sorry, do the same thing. Sorry. That means you're not sorry, right? If you say I'm sorry, it's easy to say sorry, but what are you going to do? I always remember an incident here at Prabhupada, not this place, before he came, and he was living nearby the temple. staying nearby the temple, and he came, and Satsarup Maharaj was his servant at that time. And he came across, and then Prabhupada was ready to give the Bhagavatam class, and he said, "Where are my glasses?" And Satsarup was fiddling around, and, "Oh, Prabhupada, I forgot your glasses." So Prabhupada was just looking at him, and Satsarup was just looking back. And he said, "So, what are you going to do about it?" Wasn't enough distance. Yeah, but he said, "Sorry, Prabhupada." And he just kept looking, silence. "So, what are you going to do about it?" "Oh, Prabhupada, I'll run back and I'll get them." "Very good." "Very good, do that, and quickly." He came back real quick. He was reading, Prabhupada had to read very close. So, so you have to do something about it. So this is the surrendering process. And Prabhupada, this purport to this verse where Krishna himself gives the instruction. And not only that, Krishna showed by example. He went into the ashram of Sandipani Muni. Sandipani Muni, I remember a couple of years ago, we were in Ujjain having a GBC meeting, and Bhakti-Acharya Maharaj took it because nearby there is Sandipani Muni ashram. And so we all went up and took darshan on this Krishna deity. It was a very nice place there, and there was Sandipani Muni ashram there, when Krishna and Balaram went to school in the ashram of their guru. And I was just reading in Perth about the Prithu, incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He was being praised and glorified. But when Sanat Kumar came, he bowed down and worshipped him and accepted him as his guru and took instruction from him. And Prabhupada actually mentioned in the purport there that one must, if one actually wants to go back home, back to Godhead, one must approach a bona fide guru in one of the bona fide Vaishnava Sampradayas to go back home, back to Godhead. And he said the Kumar Sampradaya is one of those Sampradayas. Of course, we have the Rudra Sampradaya, we have the Sri. Remember, we have our Brahma, Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya. So it actually said that if you receive a mantra, there's one verse, Sampradaya Vihina, Ye Mantras, that in the Padma Purana there was one verse like this that says actually the mantra you receive, if it's not received properly through the bona fide guru, in the bona fide Sampradaya, then your mantra will not act, it'll be useless. Someone asked me like that. Someone said in Perth, someone said, some devotee told me that, you don't need a guru. You just chant Hare Krishna and you'll be able to go back home, back to Godhead. I said, well, maybe, but are you going to chant purely? Are you going to, because going back home, back to Godhead means freedom from anatta. And one, because I always remember this, because one time Hridaya Maharaj wrote to Prabhupada about coming to Brazil, and because there were many candidates for initiation. And Prabhupada wrote back, I always remember this letter, and he wrote back and he said, yes, I will come, but the initiator is already there. The initiator is there in the form of the Hare Krishna mantra. I will come and officiate. But both is necessary because the mantra is Krishna. Nama Chintamani, what is that verse? Nama Chintamani, what is that? Puna Siddha Nityabhukto, Binat Vannami Namino. It is not different to Krishna, it is actually Krishna. So he is satisfied when, by your effort, by following his instruction to approach the Guru, and he manifests himself. When the Guru gives you the mantra, then the mantra becomes very strong. And then you get instruction from the Guru, how to become pure, how to avoid the anarthas, the pitfalls along the way on the path of devotional service. So who is that person who can actually go back home just by chanting the mantra by themselves? And here Prabhupada warns against it. Don't try to independently do it. Maybe if you're a Nitya Siddha right from the beginning of your life, you can do something like that. But don't try to independently. You must, and Krishna himself gives the instruction, if you want to understand, just learn the truth by approaching the spiritual master. So he says here, the path of spiritual realization is undoubtedly difficult. The Lord advises us to approach the bona fide spiritual master in disciplic succession from the Lord himself. No one can be a bona fide spiritual master unless they're in this disciplic succession coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, he goes on to say here, mental speculation, dry arguments cannot help lead one to the right path, nor by independent study of books of knowledge, nor by concocting a process for advancement. So many things like no independent. I mean, that's true in the material world even. If you want to get to the highest position, just like if you want to go to the university, you go to university, and even if someone says, here are the books, go home, study, come back at the end of the year, do your exam. Will you be very confident? Will you be very confident you will pass your exam? So no, you have to study the books under the guidance of the professor, of the lecturer. You have to go to a bona fide institution. So the lecturer has to be good, the books have to be good, the institution has to be good, and you have to be good. So all these elements have to be there. So you can have a good institution, you can have a good guru, you can have great books, but if you're not a very good student, you will fail. You will fail the exam. Right? Isn't it? So it's true in the material world. Whatever you do, if someone's training for the Olympic Games, they want to try to win the gold medal. So if you want to win the gold medal, then you've got to go into training. You have a coach. You have many coaches. They train you just nicely, and they're experienced. They know how to do it. So one who wants to come to the topmost levels definitely needs all this training. So even in the material world, it's a fact. And what to speak of spiritual life. So all the acharyas say the same thing. Krishna says the same thing. He shows by example. Other incarnations, expansions of the Lord, all give the same instruction, show by their very example. Prithu Maharaj accepted Sanat Kumar, Lord Ram, he accepted, everyone accepted. So then someone's going to say, well, I don't think I need a guru. That's foolish. Very, very foolish. Krishna says you take the guru. And then Prabhupada actually says, now the guru can be, it has to be all these things, Shastra, Sadhu, Guru, initiating, instructing, all these aspects have to be there to make nice advancement. Now here he says that such a spiritual master should be accepted in full surrender. One should serve the spiritual master like a menial servant without false prestige. Prabhupada said the same thing in this purport. He talks about false prestige. What master means giving up one's false prestige and unnecessary puffed up position in the material world. Now, in one place in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Jain Maishwara Shruta Sribi Edamana Manapuman, it is mentioned, Prabhupada explains that generally in the material world there are 4 categories of prestige. One can become very puffed up over. And big family, high family. You come in a big family, big high Brahmin family, aristocratic family, and you're, part of that family, and you become very proud. I'm a big family man. I'm a big shot because I've got the big family. Right? So that can be one source of prestige. Generally, big families is prestigious. And then Aishwara means opulence or wealth. So if someone's got a lot of money, possessions and so on, that's prestigious. Very prestigious in the material world. Jamaishwara. Shruta means education. So someone has got BA, MA, PhD, and so they get very puffed up. They get very puffed up by their mundane education, very easily. And Shruta, Shribi means beauty. I am very handsome. I am very beautiful. I'm more beautiful than you are. I'm more handsome than you are. I'm stronger than you. You get puffed up. So these 4 categories of prestige, Prabhupada and the Shastras call that false prestige because they're all temporary, they're illusory. They're here one minute, they're gone the next. So if one is puffed up by these things, one cannot learn, one cannot surrender properly to the spiritual master, and therefore cannot really surrender properly to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So one has to give up their prestigious attachment. Then one can begin the path of surrender. So don't think I'm a big family, I'm better than everybody else. I'm better than my guru. Or I've got a PhD, or I've got 2 PhDs. Then what have I got to learn from the guru? You know everything already. Why do you need to come to the guru? You see. So there's not a proper attitude for learning. There has to be submission. And Prabhupada very, very much points this out. Inquire from him submissively. Here Krishna says, Pariprashnena, Pranipatena, Pariprashnena, Prabhupada translate, by submissive inquiries. Submissive inquiries. So, prashnena, inquiry, and pariprashnena, submissive inquiries. Now, he explains here also, don't blindly follow, but don't make don't make absurd inquiries, nonsense questions. I remember I was at Juhu Temple and Prabhupada was there before the temple was built, just staying in the apartments, and he was giving darshan every afternoon, and one fellow came, a Westerner came along, devotees, he'd met the devotees, so they brought him along to meet Prabhupada. So Prabhupada had open darshan in the afternoon, and so everyone came in, and this fellow started talking about, Prabhupada said, how are you? And he started talking, then he said, have you any questions? He said, yes, I just want to know, where the mankind came from and everything like that. I think that there's some connection to the pyramids. He was going on about the pyramids. I think there's some connection to the pyramids because, the aliens came down in spaceships, and actually these pyramids are actually spaceships, and if they dig further they'll find actually that's all connected, and actually we're a race coming from the aliens, and he's just going on and on. And so Prabhupada let him talk for a while, and he said, these things are all nonsense. This is nonsense, and your question is nonsense. Your question is not these things are nonsense, your question is nonsense. You have to learn how to ask nice questions. And indeed, actually, when you went in front of Prabhupada, you have to know how to talk. You wouldn't want to risk asking something dumb. And I always remember my godbrother, but we were walking in Perth, and Prabhupada, he was walking along, and then, my godbrother said that, Prabhupada, when Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita 5,000 years ago, Prabhupada stopped. He said, he looked around, he said, you were a student of Bhagavad Gita? And the disciple said, yes, Prabhupada, I read Bhagavad Gita. He said, then how you can say Krishna spoke Bhagavad Gita 5,000? Did you not read Imam Vivashvate Yogam? Proktavan Ahamavya, Vivashvan Manavya, Manu Ikshvakavya, that Krishna spoke many millions of years ago to the sun god, the same thing. How you can say only 5,000 years? You're a student of the Bhagavad Gita. So he was like, didn't ask any questions after that. So you have to be careful what questions you ask. But so you have to be submissive, not puffed up. Not puffed. You can ask questions. Prabhupada always encouraged questions, and all the acharyas, but not puffed up, proud, showing off. We were at a pandal, I remember, Prabhupada, and then someone asked a question. He was taking questions. And after that, we changed. The next night, we changed to write your questions because this person asked a question, but it turned into a lecture. Person asking the question for 10 or 15 minutes, and and Prabhupada was turning to his secretary. I forget who it was. He said, "What is his question? What is his question?" It was going on and on and on, and then someone had jumped up. I forget who it was, and said, "So ask your question. Don't." So that's like showing off. Showing off. Your so-called knowledge, and you're showing off. So don't be like that in front of the guru. Don't try to show off. Don't try to think maybe you know more than the guru. Maybe on one level, PhD, this and that, but you have to sit down. You have to be humble. This is one of the items of surrender, being meek and humble. Meek and humble. Indeed, Lord Jesus said that. The meek shall inherit the earth. He said one of the things, one of his statements. The meek shall inherit the earth. So be meek and humble. And so ask in a humble way, not challenging. Don't be offensive to the Guru. So all these things one has to learn how, and then the Guru being naturally kind. Now here Prabhupada says, the Guru has a genuine desire, he's naturally kind, he will automatically bless the disciple with genuine spiritual understanding. In this verse, by blind following, absurd inquiries are condemned, he says here. Not only should one hear submissively from the spiritual master, but one must also get a clear understanding from him in submission and service and inquiries. Now, service is pariprashana sevaya, rendering service unto the Guru. Very, very important. It is by our original constitutional position is serving. We're serving in the material. We are originally serving Krishna and so many others spiritually. So service, and through that service one gets attachment. Through service, attachment, and then the service is in service to Krishna, then that attachment becomes spiritual. But when we're serving in the material world, we become attached to material things. So it's just a question of dovetailing all these things, all these habits we have all these bad habits, we have to change them from bad habits to good habits. Bad habits to good habits. Good habit, serving, having the right attitude, being in the association of devotees. A bona fide spiritual master is by nature very kind toward the disciple. Therefore, when the student is submissive and always ready to render service, the reciprocation of knowledge and inquiries becomes perfect. The reciprocation. It has to be a proper atmosphere. A proper atmosphere has to be created. Just like school. The children go to school. So a proper atmosphere has to be created there, so it enhances the learning process. And the atmosphere entails many different elements. The whole situation of the classroom, where they have to go, so on and so forth. Same at the university. A certain situation has to be created that enhances the mood for learning. You see? They do all sorts of things, graduation, there's ceremonies, there's this, that, and the other. All meant to enhance the whole process of academic education. So too, there's a certain mood that has to be established. Guru, Krishna has given this, because at the moment we cannot directly approach Krishna. In another purport in Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada explains very nicely. He says that Arjuna was very fortunate. He was able to receive instruction directly from Krishna. And because he surrendered to Krishna, in the end he surrendered to Krishna, he achieved the supreme, the topmost perfection and the supreme goal. He said, we may not be so fortunate to be directly instructed by Krishna, but if we're instructed, but Prabhupada said, but if we follow the instructions in this book, meaning Bhagavad Gita, if we follow these instructions in this book, he said in his purport, in this book, under the guidance of the bona fide representative of Krishna, then the same result will be there. He said the same, I always noted that, the same result will be there. In other words, whatever result Arjuna achieved by receiving Krishna's instructions and surrendering unto him, then we can achieve the same result by following the instructions in this book, in Bhagavad Gita, and under the guidance of the bona fide spiritual master. So this type of thing is emphasized again and again over by in the Shastras, by the Supreme Personality of God in the Shastras, by all the Acharyas, all the Sadhus, all emphasize this point. You cannot independently, it's just too difficult for the conditions, especially in the Kali Yuga. One needs help. One needs help. So one has to acknowledge that they need help. This is very, very important. One has to acknowledge, if someone has difficulty, say for example, if someone has a dependence, an addiction to alcohol or drugs or something like that, the counsellors always say that unless they admit their position and understand their position of addiction and seek help, then it's very difficult to help them. It's very difficult to help them. All professional counsellors and healers will tell you the same thing. It's very difficult to help them unless they want help. And when they come to the position of wanting help, then help can be administered and go along very nicely. But if one is in denial of needing help, then that's a very unfortunate position and very difficult position for them. So we have to acknowledge that we are not we are in a very weak position, and due to so much conditioning, and we need help. And then if we're intelligent by the mercy of the association of devotees, by the mercy of Guru and Sadhu, we can make nice advancement on the path of Krishna consciousness. Jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sri Sri Radha Vallabha ki jai. Lo Premanandi Hari Hari Bol. Does anyone have any question or comment? Sit down. What means? We read that certain things. Oh yeah, different statements in the Shastra. Yeah. I mean, you will go back home, back to God. Just when you will go back home, back to God. So just by coming to the Rath, seeing the Lord Jagannath on the Rath, there's many statements like that where one is liberated. But there may be a time separating according to your degree of surrender. But you've had that contact. You're going to go. You're on the path. Going back home, back to... This is explained. I've read about these statements about coming to the Rath Yatra and all these. So it depends on... So you're on the path. You will be liberated. So sometimes it'll just say you are liberated because it's just a time separating. So the statement will say that they are liberated. But actually, it is a little bit more to it, and the Acharyas often explain, give a bit more elaboration. Yes, you're liberated, you're now on the path, you're in the boat, but you have to be careful along the way still, and then you have to cultivate that, and then eventually you will. But those who don't get any contact at all, then, what's their situation? They're just going to go around in the cycle. But someone who comes, sees Lord Jagannath, the Rath Yatra, and many things like that, they are liberated. Definitely they're liberated, and they get the mercy, and it'll continue on until they become totally perfect, and then go back home, back to Godhead. So it's always been my understanding. And I have read explanations like that by the various acharyas. Very good question, thank you. Any other further question? Okay, thank you very much. Jai Shri Shri Radha Vallabha ki jai. Go Premanandi. Just came in a little late there. Sorry.